This evening's board meeting. We have returned to regular session earlier, so we'll move on to 4.1, the public hearing, the convening of a public hearing pursuant to ARS 15-948 and D and 15905D to review revision number 2 to the expenditure budget for fiscal year 2022. I do not have any public comment or green slips for this particular line item, but Ms. Myers, I do need a motion to convene this public hearing, though. So before we get started, board members, I do need a motion to move into this session.
I move that we convene the public hearing.
I will second.
Ms. Contra, we have a motion by Ms. Underhill and a second by Ms. Hill. Board members, please cast your votes. Motion passes, 5 yeas. Ms. Myers?
Yes, well, good evening, President Sandoval, members of the Governing Board, Dr. Reynolds, and community. This evening, I will present information related to the second revision to the Peoria Unified School District's operating budget for fiscal year 2022. Tonight, I will review the requirements related to budget revisions, as well as highlight the main changes to the Maintenance and Operations Fund, District Additional Assistance, Classroom Site Fund budgets, as well as I'll highlight our grants and certain cash-controlled funds. I'll also provide information on the district's federal ESSER grants. Stewardship of community resources is one of the 4 perspectives of the district's strategic plan. The annual budget process is part of the strategic perspective to solidify and adhere to effective policies, practices, and accountability for district resources. I would also like to thank our budget analyst, Veronica Fabella, for her assistance with tonight's revision. A public school district must adopt an annual expenditure budget each year by July 15th, and districts can revise their budgets in December and May of each year. This year, you'll recall, due to the legislature having a longer session, school districts actually were required to have their first budget revision by September 15th to include final budget numbers in the adopted and revised budget. Peoria Unified is not being required at this time to revise our budget this December. However, budget revisions and tonight's budget revision in particular do allow an opportunity for districts to include total year-end fund balance carry forwards as well as adjustments for ADM and other minor adjustments, and that's what we're bringing forward this evening. So again, in July of each year, we do adopt our expenditure budget. And in maintenance and operations, expenditures are where regular education and special education day-to-day activities take place, including salaries and benefits, fuel costs, utilities as an example, basically expenditures not of a capital nature. In this budget revision, the M&O budget is being increased $1,431,441, which is mainly due to a fiscal year 2021 distance learning adjustment and a minor ADM average daily membership adjustment. District additional assistance, also referred to as capital funding, can be used for purchases in the areas of technology and furniture, textbooks, instructional aid software as an example. In this budget revision, the district additional assistance budget is being increased $1,222,773 to recognize the final fiscal year 2021 carry forward. The Classroom Site Fund supports base pay and performance pay for certified classroom teachers and other eligible staff. The budget in this fund is being increased $748,353 to reflect prior year carry forward amounts not included in the fiscal year 2022 adopted budget. And the first expenditure budget revision that we brought forward earlier in the year highlighted a handful of non-levy cash-controlled funds, and I'm highlighting those accounts again. 5 examples are on this slide, as well as a $52.4 million budgeted amount for federal and state grants, which has been adjusted to actual at this point in December with this budget revision, including $23 million for ESSER-related reimbursement grant funding. And you've heard me talk about the ESSER funding opportunity with our proposed and adopted budget. In detail, I will highlight ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 and the $17.4 million of ESSER 2 grant funding that the district has received for eligible expenses through September 30th, 2023. And in the 2022 budget, we do have $8 million budgeted from ESSER 2. And if we go to the next slide, we have ESSER 3 also highlighted on this slide, and you'll recall that Peoria Unified did receive $39.4 million for eligible reimbursement grant expenses incurred from the beginning of the pandemic, March of 2020 through September 30th of 2024. The fiscal year 2022 budget included $15 million for ESSER 3, and that remains unchanged with this second budget revision. The district, as we've shared previously, has aligned a significant portion of the ESSER 3 grant opportunity to the district's strategic plan, and associated plan document is available on the district's website. Based on the information provided, administration recommends that the governing board approve budget revision number 2 for the fiscal year 2022 expenditure budget as presented during the action agenda item later in the meeting. This concludes the presentation. At this time, the community can offer comments, and I am available to answer your questions from the governing board regarding the budget revision. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Myers. And again, I do not have any public comment requests for this line item, but board members, questions, comments? Ms. Hill?
None at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hill. Dr. Sorensen?
No, sir.
Ms. Underhill?
No, thank you.
Representative Pingerelli? Yeah? I don't either. Ms. Myers, thank you again for your time. All right, moving on to 5.1, I do need a motion to adjourn the public hearing.
I move to, oh, go ahead.
Sorry. I move to adjourn the public hearing.
Second.
Ms. Conchar, we have a motion by Ms. Hill and a second by Ms. Underhill. Board members, please cast your votes. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, board members. All right, moving on to our opening exercises, 6.1, moment of silence, and 6.2, Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Reynolds, would you mind lead us into the pledge? And ladies and gentlemen, if we can have in our hearts and our minds and our thoughts the families and students of Oxford as we go through a moment of silence, that'd be much appreciated. Thank you. Okay, moving on to section 7, address agenda. I do have, let's see here, an item that I'd like to pull from our consent agenda. Ms. Conchar, looks like, hang tight, that is 10.3, our human resources report. We do have a public comment tied to that line item. So I'd like to pull it, please. Grab that right?
Yes, sir, that is correct. It is 10.3. I think that the agendas that you're looking at were copied before there was an adjustment made, so it is 10.3.
Okay. I do need a second for that, please.
A second.
Thank you, Representative Pingerelli. Board members, any other items or any other changes to the agenda that you would like to make? Ms. Hill?
No, thank you.
All right. Dr. Sorensen?
No, sir.
All right. Ms. Underhill?
No, thank you.
Representative Pingerelli? Okay. I don't either. With that said, I do need a motion to approve the agenda minus 10.3, which is the Human Resources Report.
I move to approve the consent agenda minus 10.3.
I'll second that. Ms. Conchar, we have a motion by Representative Pingerelli, a second by myself. Board members, please cast your votes. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, board members. Okay, moving on to section 8, recognitions. I know Ms. Airy is not here today.
We do not have
so
any
We don't
recognitions.
know recognitions, okay. 8.2, board comments. Ms. Hill.
None at this time, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hill. Dr. Sorensen.
No, sir.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Underhill.
Yeah, I just wanted to take a moment just to give a big thank you and just tell all of our staff and students and parents how grateful I am for all of you and to wish you a lovely and wonderful and safe holiday season. I also wanted to just give a shout out to Mr. Chad Eichenlab. He's a coordinator at our MET program over on the old Peoria campus. I was able to attend the MET Advisory Committee meeting this week and just continue to be amazingly impressed by what they're doing over there with those kids. They had a member from the City of Peoria's engineering department talk about the work that he's been able to do with the young people there, and it's just so impressive to hear from the students and just the level of professionalism among them, their public speaking skills, and the level of work that they're doing is really looking at actual projects with the city And what he said was some of the things that they would actually hire consultants for is some of the work that these kids are able to do. So just another wonderful opportunity, another option of choice in our district that I just wanted to call out and thank them all for their work. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Underhill. Representative Pingerelli? Okay. So I do have one recognition this evening. It is, and actually, I guess it could be two, but it was one event. So I had the opportunity to attend the state marching band competition at Glendale Community College. And we had two of our high schools that were made it to that level, and that was Ironwood High School and Peoria High School. And I hope I have this right, but Ironwood, I believe, got fifth in state in the marching band competition, and Peoria High School got second place in that competition. So congratulations to both of those programs and those teams. Yes, well deserved, for sure. You know, similar to what Ms. Earnhardt was saying, I mean, each of these bands have upwards, I believe, if it's not 40 students, it's more than that, but it's a large group. But it's amazing how they've continued to work together as a team to accomplish this, really this achievement of making it to this level. And just the sound that came from that band was amazing. So again, congratulations to both those programs, the teachers of both of those programs, and congratulations to Ironwood and Peoria High School. Moving on to 8.3, superintendent comments. Dr. Reynolds.
Thank you, President Sandoval, Governing Board, Cabinet, and guests. First of all, congratulations to Brett Stafford, the badminton coach from Ironwood High School. He was selected as both the 2021 AIA Peoria Section Coach of the Year and the 2021 Division II Coach of the Year. This is back-to-back state championships for the team and for Coach Stafford, and also back-to-back years that the AIA has honored Mr. Stafford as Coach of the Year for Division II. So congratulations to him and the entire badminton community at Ironwood High School. We are thrilled to share that Peoria Unified's partnership with Glendale Community College to offer a preschool program as part of their Early Childhood Education Lab recently received a first place award in the collaboration category for the ASBA Golden Bell Promise Program. The Golden Bell Awards recognize school initiatives that have demonstrated outstanding student growth and success. Only one award is presented in each category, and to win, the program needs to be student-oriented, needs to demonstrate leadership and a commitment to the educational excellence and outcomes for all students. We could not be more pleased of this incredible opportunity to highlight this collaboration that we know has a lasting impact on our youngest learners. So congratulations to Dr. Pischke and the entire preschool team of teachers. It's really exciting to be able to celebrate them in that collaboration. This weekend, our high school band and choirs will be busy supporting the community and celebrating the holiday season on Saturday, December 11th. 3 high schools are performing in the city of Glendale's hometown Christmas parade at 11 a.m. And later that same day, 5 of our high schools will be performing at the city of Peoria's Old Town Holiday Festival between 5 and 7:30 p.m. So visit the city's websites for a copy of the performance schedules. Wish them all the best of luck. I also, on a personal note, want to thank Miss Carol Michael and Miss Renee Nunez for inviting me to come into one of the Apache Elementary School's 3rd grade classrooms for the Hour of Code this week. It was just a joy to watch these teachers working with students and really getting them excited about coding and the future of that. They were excited. It's the highlight of my day. So, and of course, as this is our last meeting of 2021, I want to wish everyone a happy holiday and a wonderful new year. We'll see you back for 2022.
Thank you, sir. All right, moving on to section 9, public comment, request to address the governing board regarding matters not included on the agenda. As a matter of housekeeping, The board president shall keep control of the meeting and require the speakers and the audience to refrain from abusive or profane remarks, disruptive outbursts, applause, protests, or other conduct which disrupts or interferes with the orderly conduct of the business of the meeting. Personal attacks on board members, staff, or members of the public are not allowed. It is inappropriate to utilize a public hearing, the public comment segment, or any other agenda items for the purpose of making political speeches. Engaging in such conduct and failing to cease such conduct upon request of the presiding officer will be grounds for ending a speaker's time at the podium or for the removal of any disruptive person from the meeting room at the direction of the board president. With that said, we welcome everyone's voices this evening, and we will start with, looks like Michelle, is it Bednark? Benart?
During the past 18 years, our district has gone from being the best in the state to one of the worst. The wage that is being offered to incoming food service employees is not attracting the caliber of people who will have the longevity or the loyalty to our district, not when neighboring districts are offering considerably higher wages. For example, a starting cafeteria manager in the Tolleson district with no experience is starting at $16.96 an hour. While here in Peoria, it's $13.15 to $14.89 an hour. It would be more financially sound for some of our managers to quit and go to work for another district than to stay at ours. When you consider the new employees are now required to provide their own fingerprint certification cards at the cost of $75 before even getting their first paycheck, it's hard to see where the attraction to someone looking for a job is. There needs to be some sort of acknowledgement of the work that has been done for our long-term food service employees that are being ignored by the district while they are attempting to handle the challenges caused by the minimum wage adjustments. It is unfair to them to keep being put on the back burner. Every time there is a cost of living adjustment for the minimum wage, more and more of our employees are stuck earning the same as someone who just came in. There is no reward for loyal employees to stay when this happens. Special consideration for bus drivers with no acknowledgement of other classified staff is a slap in our face. We understand the need for the bus drivers is severe, and by making this change, you're trying to attract new employees to cover the shortage, but the Food Nutrition Department is facing the same issue. We cannot attract new employees due to the starting wage. We are tasked with the same responsibilities to our students as a bus driver, only ours extends throughout the school day. We are required to hold certifications that ensure food safety. We are tasked every day in some schools with monitoring students during lunch times, as well as providing meals and cleaning up between every class. This year, we have endured abuse and disrespect from students daily with little or no support from administration. In 2008, our managers lost $1 an hour due to the recession. This has never been returned. When the district decided to outsource our custodians, our employees were required to take up much of the custodial work that was not covered by the third-party company that was hired. This was done without any compensation to our employees. Most of us stayed throughout all of this because of our love for the kids and the support we get from our Food Nutrition Department. The staff is amazing. They are always there to help in any way possible, from helping on the line to delivering food, to covering the kitchens, doing dishes when our employees are out. During all of this, not one time have we been considered to receive any sort of incentive increase in pay. Our department is always ready and willing to change direction when needed, all the while maintaining food safety and district protocol.
Sorry, thank you, Ms. Bednark. Your 3
Thank
minutes
you.
are up. I appreciate your time. Next public comment comes from Tammy Plouffe. Buffet. I am not doing well this evening.
That's okay. My name's Tammy Plouffe. I'm the cafeteria manager at Frontier Elementary. And please know that I am not a practiced public speaker, so I'm very, very beyond nervous. A couple meetings ago when I was here, I remember one of you making a statement that PUSD district wants to be one of the districts that others look up to for wages and other things. We have good people, but we need to get there with those wages. And I would like to respectfully ask you, when do we, the loyal people who have been feeding these children and grandchildren for many years, especially these last 2 years with this pandemic and nearly impossible conditions, get the raises that are by now long overdue? The frustration we have daily is real, real. We're continually short-staffed, and now we're short-supplied. Currently, we cannot even get trays to feed the kids on. Sometimes we're giving them little plastic baggies, and they're balancing their food. We do more still just to show up every day. We're not just here to collect a paycheck. We're here for the kids. I'd like to ask you guys all to think back when you guys maybe either worked at school or visited a school with your kids, grandkids, and went to that Thanksgiving Day meal. You remember how many people we fed that day? We do more than that every single day right now. Every day. Some of our schools have more than doubled what we're feeding. With the same amount of people, most of us, double the amount of work. We're beyond frustrated, and we're just tired. We need your guys' help. Last year, while a lot of these ladies were standing out there in 115 degrees, I was out driving because some of the parents couldn't even get through the curbside. So I was delivering food to their homes. We're willing to do whatever it takes. I know other people are loyal too, but we're always there. We're showing up. And we have to train all of these new people that we're getting in, but we train them maybe for a few weeks, and then they take off and they go to Chick-fil-A and they go to McDonald's and make more than we're making after a number of years. We need your help. We really do. When the PE teacher, the art teacher, the band teacher don't show up, those classes are canceled. It doesn't happen that way when I don't show up. Somebody has to still kick in, another manager, another Sandra from our food and nutrition office. We just keep going and going and going, thinking that you guys are going to notice. Please, you know by now that we're the ones you can count on to keep showing up and keep getting the children fed, and we're doing it in a safe manner within a deadline every single day. You guys can count on us. Please show us that we can count on you too. We really need your help. We're worth keeping.
Thank you, Ms. Plouffe. Next public comment comes from Ms. Heather Rooks.
Yes, hello, board members, superintendent, and guests. I first wanted to say thank you for my kids' school. They had their winter band concert this week. My fifth grader was very excited to perform. He'd been practicing a long time, and it just was really nice to sit there and enjoy it with parents and the kids smiling. So I just wanted to ask if it was possible for the board to look into other school functions happening at other schools, because a lot of parents are not allowed to attend. There's been a few parents that talk about turkey trot that happened a couple weeks ago. It was outside, but they had to stay behind the fence instead of being able to go up and watch their kids on the turkey trot. So there's just a couple schools that I guess are doing things differently. So I just wanted to know if we could maybe address that issue. You know, it's been 2 years. I think we need to have the parents back there so that they can watch and experience what their kids are going through in their education. Also, I wanted to ask the board president to please add to the next agenda discussions, whether it's a vote, on social emotional learning and curriculum transparency protocols. This past year, there's been many issues on parents accessing resources, materials, and more in the classroom. There needs to be a procedural policy on what teachers use in the classroom. I haven't seen an approval policy when it comes to supplemental materials on the website and what can be used and what cannot be used. Recently, there was an assignment that was given to sixth graders on the caste system in India and how it applies to American society. And it says that if you get stuck when thinking about how power is organized in American society, think about the inequality between different economic classes, genders, races, religions, and more. I think that's very inappropriate. A parent was kind of upset about it. So there needs to be some type of protocols going on with that. You know, Dr. Reynolds, you had mentioned at the board meeting on April 8th that there's no critical race theory taught in this district. But, you know, again, public records shows there was at some point. You know, we have a curriculum coach. I know I'm not allowed to say the name, but they had stated that they will add that another teacher reached out a while back and shared a specific lesson from the 1619 project that she wanted to use. She wanted my opinion to know what the district stance was. The specific lesson she shared with me was so fantastic, so I concurred that she should actually use it. This was last year, December 10th. So none of these things are being addressed. Dr. Sandoval, Mr. Sandoval, you're not adding these things to the agenda. If you want to be a leader for Peoria Unified School District, you have to have these discussions as a board, and you're the only person that approves these things to the agenda. Otherwise, we're just going to keep coming back and saying the same thing over and over again because we don't know the district stance, because nobody votes on it. Nobody discusses it. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ricks. Next public comment comes from Ms. Vicky Zaleski. Thank you. Okay, you're welcome. All right, that concludes our public comment session this evening. Thank you again, everybody, for attending and engaging in the board meetings and expressing your voices. We really do appreciate it. Okay, moving on to section 11. So I believe it's 11.1, right, Ms. Contra?
Yes, sir. It is 11.1 HR report.
The Human Resource Report. Like I stated, we do have a public comment tied to this line item. We will listen to public comment and have any board questions, comments, and then we'll vote on the line item. So this public comment comes from Mr. looks like Sam Dwarka. It's Sam Dwarka. The podium is all yours, sir. Just as in public comment, you have 3 minutes, okay?
Good afternoon, members of the governing board, Dr. Reynolds, the president, and fellow guests here, ladies and gentlemen. I am here this afternoon requesting that I have been on a point of losing my job here today effective. I'm a school bus driver, and I drove the bus B84 from 2018 to November 29, 2021. I never absent one day. I work from 5:30 a.m. in the morning until 11 p.m. in the night, and come back at 5 o'clock in the morning for 4 years. And I don't know, unfortunately, my talent, my hard work, I use times very efficiently and economically, and I do my best. I have experience as a mechanic, and my boss never have a problem. 84 is still on the road, and unfortunately, there are some written up little things that I've done could have been sorted out with some form of mercy, compassion, and grace. Unfortunately, it was a bit too tough, and the decision seems not to go my way all the time. I've been very, very blessed to transport these children. Their parents may miss me. They give me this. I have letters here showing from my field trip coordinator how much they appreciate me. I have letter reading here. Here's Sam. Here's a thank you for all the help you gave to George off the bus. Kindly appreciate you. Thank you very much, Maureen, George Brazil, mother. And I feel that I need a couple years or even to finish up the semester to get add a little to my Social Security. I have nothing much if I retire. I'm 68 years old. I can't go and drive a 18-wheeler now. So I'm asking the board to reconsider their decisions of terminating my employment and give me a chance to work. I've done tremendously work at transportation. I have cleaned every bus, every spare bus, every field trip bus I went in. I have pictures. They're all in a mess. I service them. I wash the engine when I come back in the night, if it's 10, 11 o'clock in the night. And thank Peoria School District, I'm being paid for the time I work for. I respect that very much. But unfortunately, things did not go my way, and I did made two incidents and no citation, no damages, nothing to nobody, personal property, very minimal.
Thank you, Mr. Dwarka. I appreciate your time.
All right, thanks. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Board members, questions, comments on 11.1, Human Resources Report? Ms. Hill?
None at this time. Thank you.
Dr. Sorensen?
No, sir.
Ms. Underhill? Representative Pinero? Nope, I don't either. So with that said, I do need a motion to approve 11.1, the Human Resources Report.
I move to approve 11.1 Human Resources Report.
I'll second that. Ms. Contra, we have a motion by Ms. Underhill and a second by myself. Board members, please cast your votes. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, board members. All right, moving on to section 12, action items. 12.1, consideration of revision number 2 to the maintenance and operation district additional assistance and classroom site fund budgets for fiscal year 2021 to 2022. Ms. Myers, welcome again.
Thank you, President Sandoval, members of the Governing Board, Dr. Reynolds. I do not have additional information to add beyond what was presented during the public hearing. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, board members. Questions, comments? Ms. Hill?
No comments at this time. Thank you.
Dr. Sorensen?
No, sir.
Ms. Underhill? All right. Representative Pingarelli? I don't either. Thank you, board members. I do need a motion to approve 12.1, consideration of revision number 2 to the maintenance and operations district additional assistance and classroom site fund budgets for the fiscal year 2021 to 2022. I'll move that we approve 12.1. I do need a second.
Second.
Ms. Contra, we have a motion by myself, a second by Ms. Underhill. Board members, please cast your votes. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, board members. All right, moving on to 12.2, COVID-19 paid sick leave continuation. Ms. Fesley. Ms. Myers, thank you.
Good evening, President Sandoval, members of the board, Dr. Reynolds. Tonight I bring before you our, hopefully a continuation of our COVID paid sick leave. If you remember, earlier this year, we did extend it up through December 31st. Because we're still continuing to see COVID cases here in our district, we are recommending at this time that you, the board, approve an extension of our COVID sick leave for our employees. We're asking that we approve and go from January 3rd, or actually January 1st, excuse me, through June 30th of 2022. I do have a few numbers that I'd like to share with you. We have gone through our data, and from July 1st through November 30th, we've had a total of 319 employees that have utilized this optional benefit due to illness. We've had about 180 certified staff, 116 classified, and 6 administrators to date. And this is again as of November 30th. And so when we look at the total days that we may have used, it was 1,361 days. And then total hours for classified staff has been about 5,786 hours that we've been able to afford to our employees during this most difficult time. So at this time, I am asking that the board continue the extension of our COVID leave to go through June 30th of 2022.
Thank you, Ms. Vesley. Board members, questions, comments? Ms. Hill?
No comments at this time.
Dr. Sorensen?
No, sir.
Ms. Underhill? Representative Pingerelli? I don't have any questions, but just a comment. I mean, it's something that I, continue to say, over the years that I've been on this board is, we get paid for the value that we add, right, in the district or in an organization. And there's no doubt that the value that our associates, all of our associates, we have 4,000 plus, right, throughout this district, the value that they add is not equal, to the paychecks that they receive. And I know it's something that we're working on very intentionally, and I appreciate that. But, and certainly as we continue to navigate, through this pandemic, I mean, this is a benefit that, I appreciate you leading our HR team and really the leadership throughout this district to, think with others in mind and bring this forth to us to consider. So I really appreciate that. And this is definitely something that I would support, 100%. So with that said, I do need a motion to approve 12.2, the COVID-19 paid sick leave continuation.
I move to approve 12.2, the COVID-19 paid sick leave continuation.
I'll second that. Ms. Contra, we have a motion by Ms. Underhill, a second by myself. Board members, please cast your votes. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, board members. Thank you, Ms. Vesley. All right, moving on to 12.3, compensation for certified staff, classroom coverage, temporary continuation. Ms. Vesley.
Thank you again, President Sandoval, members of the board. This evening, we are also asking that we continue the classroom coverage temporary increase. Earlier this semester, we did make that increase from $20 an hour to $25 an hour due to the shortage of subs and due to the continuation of our employees experiencing COVID-19 illness and the lack thereof to cover classrooms. I am not able to get the amount that we have used to date because our schools will be turning in that information to us on December 17th. We'll be able to bring forth to you, the governing board, in January how much in first semester we were able to support our teachers when they're going in and covering during their prep times. So we are asking at this time that we continue the temporary pay going from $20 an hour to $25 an hour starting January 1st and going through May 20th. That is the teacher's last contract day. Right now it is expiring on December 31st. As I look at our sub-fill rates, we have been in the low 70s, and really this week was the first week in probably about 6 weeks where it's gone above 80%. There have been several sites where not only is it certified staff that have been ill or that we haven't been able to cover, but we've had many of our classified staff that are going in and helping to cover as well. And we have put many of them, I think, on what we would call an emergency substitute certificate, so they are going in and providing that support. We did have a couple of sites where we also sent district office staff when there were great needs. To help cover what it could have been lunch duties. We had instructional coaches going in and serving as substitutes at a couple of our sites, trying to get through these most difficult times. So because our sub shortage is still in the low 70s, we anticipate next semester that we're going to continue to have those concerns. So we're asking that you approve this temporary increase to go again from January 1st through May 20th.
Thank you, Ms. Vesely. All right, questions, comments, board members on 12.3, Ms. Hill?
I guess I don't have any at this time. I guess my only concern with giving the bump in the increase, although it be temporary, is at some point they are going to have to go back to the lower rate. And so I'm always go back and forth with this because it's hard to give somebody more money and then at some point they'll have to go back down to the lower rate. So I always find this one a hard one because you get accustomed to having extra money that in the future may not be there. So I always find this one a little bit difficult to try to figure out, as far as how to vote. But thank you very much.
You bet.
Thank you, Ms. Hill. Dr. Sorensen?
No, sir.
All right. Ms. Underhill?
No, I appreciate it, and I think it's important, and I know that this is happening quite much more frequently, this year and last year, so I think it's important to go ahead and do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Underhill. Representative Pingerelli?
Now, you had mentioned that you had emergency classified that fill in.
That is correct.
Do they get the same pay as this?
They get a $5 an hour increase. Michelle, I think I'm remembering correctly. We have about 30 positions that's coming out of our Title I grants. And so those 30 positions, we have principals that are calling us saying, I have an instructional assistant. Some of them already have a teaching certificate, and we are able to do an emergency sub-cert. So they are not getting the same rate of pay, but they are getting, I think it's a $5 an hour increase on those days when they're going in and subbing for a teacher.
Are they doing the same job?
They're going in and covering and subbing, yes.
But they get $5 an hour, not the...
No, they get $5 an hour more to their base. That's correct.
Okay. And then I guess,
And then
would that bring it up to close to what this is
it depends on their rate of pay.
on average? Like an
I
average?
would have to bring that back to you in a Friday report. I'm happy to research that for you.
And Mrs. Vesely, if I may add, President Sandoval, members of the governing board, a classified team member compared to a teacher. The teacher's average salary in the district is $55,166, which equates to an average hourly rate of $37.07 an hour. So this temporary increase, and when you compare it to a teacher's hourly rate, is different than a classified team member, just to have the distinction of certified to classified. Thank you.
I guess, how many emergency classified do you know that are getting the extra $5 an hour?
We have 30 available positions, and I could bring that back to you in a Friday report.
Thank you.
So along those lines, what does classified currently get paid to cover in the case that, pre-pandemic, right? What were they?
Pre-pandemic, we did not have classroom assistants covering for when teachers were out. And this was a benefit that we started offering last year when we saw that we were having a decrease in substitute teachers. ADE does allow an emergency cert for 1 year, and we worked with our Title I department, and we were able to get 30 positions. And we did use, I believe it was about 30 positions last year. We then reopened for principals this year to have 30 spots, should they have an instructional assistant on their campus that was able and willing and wanting to go in to help cover when they did not have a substitute.
Okay, so when I look at the recommended action, motion to approve the continuation of a temporary increase to classroom coverage from $20 an hour to $25 an hour, and a rate of $37.50, it looks like per 90 minutes from January 3rd, 2022 through May 20th, 2022. It seems to cover any associate that covers a classroom. just in that recommended action. So I guess, and I know we've had this discussion before when we did this previously, and just how we can, uplift our classified staff, to closer levels that our sort of a staff are being paid to cover. I realize there are some differences, but what was the $5, or what was the increase for classified staff to cover the first time around? Was it $5? Ms. Myers, do you remember? Yeah, what was, when we first did this, what was the classified staff, I guess, stipend or increase to cover a class?
Thank you. As Mrs. Vesely has shared, administration would like to bring that information back in a Friday report to ensure it's complete and accurate.
Okay. I mean, this is definitely something we need to do without question. And I don't want to delay it, but I would love to consider, once we get that information, to consider, another discussion around classified staff and that rate. Does that make sense? Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Oh,
No,
Dr. Renz,
I
did you
was
have
just
some?
simply going to add, we can explore that and bring, get the board that information, and then see if we want to consider something else in the future.
All right, perfect. Thank you. All right, with that, Representative Peoria, did you have something else?
No, I was just trying to wrap my head around the classified that are doing the emergency certification. So they're doing the same job? Is that, so if you had a certified teacher come in and you had the emergency classified come in, they would be doing the same job. Is that correct?
They are substituting in the classroom. They would be covering the teacher's lesson plans.
Okay.
Now, when we look at this particular item, if we go back to our additional stipends and supplemental, on there it does say teacher classroom coverage. And so in the past, it has always been the teacher classroom coverage. Last year, due to COVID, we did work with our Title I department. We did get these 30 additional positions for classified staff. This particular instance, we do not have the classified staff on that line item that is on the board-approved salary schedule, the supplemental.
Ms. O'Neill?
So to clarify, basically, this particular line item is addressing currently certified teaching staff, and it's not that we don't anticipate looking at increasing that or whatever that might be for classified staff. It's just that this particular agenda item is related to that. Okay.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that, Ms. Underhill. Any further questions, comments? All right. That said, I do need a motion to approve 12.3 compensation for certified staff, classroom coverage, temporary continuation.
I move to approve 12.3 compensation for certified staff, classroom coverage, temporary continuation.
Yep. I'll second that. Ms. Contra, we have a motion by Ms. Underhill, a second by myself. Board members, please cast your votes. Motion passes, 4 yeas, 1 nay. Thank you, board members. Okay, moving on to 12.4, budget process, classified hourly staff compensation and minimum wage increase effective January 1st, 2022. Now, I do have a public comment tied to this line item, so we will listen to the districts and then public comment and then board questions and comments. So Ms. Myers, you're up. Welcome.
Well, thank you and good evening. Again, President Sandoval, members of the governing board, and Dr. Reynolds, thank you for the opportunity to present information on the district budget process, classified hourly compensation considerations, and associated recommendations. Tonight, I will provide summary information on the district's budget process and considerations, compensation priorities, and progress to date. I will also discuss the impact of the minimum wage increase that's pending January 1st, 2022, and associated classified hourly employee compensation recommendations. At the end of the presentation, administration will be available to answer your questions. Over the last several years, targeted budget priorities, including employee compensation, instructional resources, and facility utilization, have been a priority focus for the Peoria Unified School District. The Governing Board approved a budget goal on January 23rd, 2020 that included a phased-in approach to defined compensation outcomes for teachers and staff in the district. This process and approach also includes input from the district's budget team each year. At the Governing Board study session on November 30th, I previously shared an overview of the current year budget process. In that update, I also included information regarding this year's budget team and that we have formally begun to meet. In fact, the first meeting was on October 6th this year. Employee stakeholders have historically provided input related to budget and compensation recommendations and the process through a budget team work group with representation from certified, classified, and administrative employees and association members. The budget team is not a superintendent or governing board committee. Instead, it's a group of stakeholders who provide input on compensation increases, recommendations related to stipends, employee benefit renewals, positions, and staffing models each year. All budget team and administrative budget recommendations do require governing board approval. This year, the budget team consists of 35 members, including 10 certified teachers, 4 certified non-teaching staff, 10 classified for administrative, 3 related service representatives, and 4 non-voting members from business services and the human resources department. The team this year has been involved in compensation recommendations to date, including the classified hourly employee recommendations that will be made as part of this presentation. The budget and compensation work is a phased process with multiple year priorities and compensation outcomes. I will highlight on this slide priorities and progress to date. I also shared this at the study session last week, including increasing years of service at the point an employee is hired, increasing the district's beginning teacher salary effective July 1st, 2020, and additional salary schedule enhancements for non-certified teaching staff that went into effect this year. Peoria Unified employees have experienced years in the past where pay was frozen and base compensation increases were very limited. That is a fact. And the restoration of inflation funding in 2016 in conjunction with the 20% by 2020 funding that was made available for classroom teachers in recent years, and importantly, the continuation of the district's 13% M&O override have allowed Peoria Unified to begin to address compensation challenges in recent years for all employee groups. And I'm highlighting the progress to date on this slide so it's easy to see year over year as funding has become available. We have prioritized compensation and in fact focused on classified staff in recent years. In the last 2 years of the 20 by 2020 increases for certified teachers, we actually included our classified at the same amount, you may recall. However, progress to date continues to be tempered by competition from other school districts for qualified teachers and staff. This is in part due to other districts not only receiving the same new funding that Peoria Unified has received in recent years, but also many and most comparable districts here in the Northwest Valley have a 15% M&O override. So that puts us at a disadvantage from a funding perspective. That's in essence in excess of $4 million of additional funding some sister districts receive that we don't each year that can be used for compensation. There's also significant competition from industry at this time for qualified workers. The impact of the minimum wage as well as limited workforce and competition from industry has made it difficult for Peoria Unified and all districts to compete. and to attract, recruit, and retain staff. Compression has been a concern for many years, especially when newer employees are hired and they may be making more than a long-term employee due to prior year pay freezes and limited compensation increases for a period of time when funding was not increased year over year for inflation from the state. Unlike a for-profit or industry employer where the employer can raise the cost of a product or service that they provide, school districts are dependent on a base support level funding from the state, and so we don't have the ability to increase revenues in the same way a for-profit entity might be able to. Last year, the budget team and administration recommended and the governing board approved not only a compensation increase for all employees, but a longevity increase to the base of various qualifying employees' compensation, which is then eligible for raises in the future. And you can see on this slide that our long-time employees were prioritized to ensure that if a team member had been with Peoria Unified for a period of time, they got an additional compensation increase to start to address some of those long-term concerns. The fiscal year 2022 compensation recommendations were approved by the governing board last April, on April 22nd, and went into effect on July 1st. During the process, there was also a commitment to continue to focus on compensation issues for all employee groups. So last year, top of mind as we highlighted priorities, compensation and compression for all employee groups was a priority, and that includes our classified staff who have been impacted by the banded compression that has been created by Prop 206 and ongoing minimum wage increases. Administration has previously shared challenges and concerns related to recruiting and retaining staff, in part due to our current and really unusual economic environment. And accordingly, this year, we came back 2 times to the governing board to address current year compensation, including requesting approval for an additional stipend for staff, a $1,500 stipend for all returning and new staff, with a $250 additional increase for bus drivers, and that was previously approved, as well as on October 14th, the governing board did approve an hourly increase for bus drivers and related transportation staff to make the district more competitive in response to the nationwide bus driver shortage. When making budget and compensation recommendations, there are a number of factors that are considered by administration and the budget team each year. And this, of course, includes the slide that I share regularly with the governing board that highlights the balancing act of external and internal factors, including incremental funding increases and other considerations. Student enrollment levels, for example, that's the basis for how school districts are funded. New state funding levels, inflation increases as an example, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. Minimum wage increase requirements, health benefit costs, other employer paid benefits, Arizona State Retirement System as an example, utilities, contracted service costs, and fuel costs as an example. I've previously mentioned that inflation funding was restored in 2016. However, annual base support level increases are capped at 2% for school districts each year, and this is the amount that school districts are planning on for budget development and pro formas for fiscal year 2023. And I'll note that that's actually below the current inflation rate in October of 2021 at 6.2%. So you can see our new funding is capped at 2%, which is below the actual inflation rate right now in the economy. During the study session, I also shared information regarding new opportunities related to Classroom Site Fund, which will be evaluated by the budget team in upcoming meetings, and we'll be bringing forward recommendations for the governing board to consider. I've shared at the study session that the eligibility for Classroom Site Fund has expanded beyond certified teachers, so we're excited to work with the budget team on opportunities with that expanded eligibility. Another consideration and a concern that I shared at the study session last week is the K-12 aggregate expenditure limit and pending funding reductions that school districts are facing this year if action is not taken by the legislature before March 1st, 2021. The Arizona Department of Education has published each school district's associated portion of the estimated $1.2 billion of funding that is at stake this year with current year funding. For school districts, Peoria Unified's published amount is just over $43 million that is at risk from a funding perspective if the legislature does not take action by March 1st. And all school districts are impacted by this due to the aggregate limit calculation. Classified hourly compression and compensation has also become a priority due to the pending minimum wage increase that all employers in Arizona will be required to implement on January 1st, 2022. The passing of Prop 206 back in 2017 raised the minimum wage from $8.05 to $12.15 an hour. And that minimum wage, $12.15, went into effect last year, January 1st, 2021. Prop 206 also does require an adjustment each year based on inflation, year over year, August to August calculation. This year, the minimum wage is increasing 65 cents to $12.80 an hour effective January 1st, just in a few weeks. And this is a 5.3% increase from the prior year. School districts have not received additional funding for these required minimum wage increases over the last 5 years. On this slide, you'll see an example of the hourly classified placement schedule prior to Prop 206 and the pay difference for each job grade. And you can see here that we were just slightly over $8.05 with grade 5 at $8.18 an hour. With Prop 206, as the minimum wage increases went into effect, it collapsed or compressed the grades that were impacted on the placement schedule and compressed the compensation for employees throughout the entire schedule. So you'll see an example here with the $12.15 an hour, grades 5 through 9 increased, and all of the other grades stayed the same. However, to address this concern for all employee groups last year and to make the district more competitive, the budget team looked at non-certified teacher salary schedules. You'll recall the year before we had focused on our certified teachers. So last year we were looking at non-certified teachers, and we did make a recommendation for a salary schedule enhancement for both classified hourly and our classified exempt staff, which included a 10% increase for the schedule for any employee who was not increasing to the new minimum wage. Because if you look at the increase year over year from $8.05 or $8.18 all the way up to $12.15, that was more than 10%. So if someone was jumping the minimum wage, they stayed at the minimum wage, and then all of the other grades had that 10% enhancement. Any employee who was making less than the new salary schedule was brought up, but existing employees did not receive an additional increase. Just to clarify, that was the enhancement that was approved last year. So this table visually demonstrates the minimum wage increase each year, and I've highlighted in yellow the impact of the minimum wage. And you can see year over year how the compression or collapsing of the grades increased as the minimum wage went up. And then in the far right corner or column rather, you'll see the enhancement that was put forward, the 10% last year for the grades not impacted by the new minimum wage increase. And again, if a team member was not at that new level for the grade in the salary placement schedule, they were brought up to that new minimum. However, now with that same salary schedule, looking at January 1st pending minimum wage increase, there will be further compression because now grades 5 through 10 will be at the minimum wage and will be subject to the 65-cent increase. And you'll also see where there used to be that variation grade to grade that reflected in part the responsibilities of each job that was in the various grades. You've lost that spread over time as grades 5 through 10 have been brought up to the minimum wage. And so that's problematic as well. And this slide really, I think, demonstrates the breadth of this minimum wage increase year over year, showing grades 5 through 10 and the various associated positions, and how the increase has really compressed all of those jobs. There's the loss of the differentiation by grade, and then of course grades 11 through 20 remain static, where grades 5 through 10 will be increasing. Administration and the budget team have evaluated this concern and are recommending an updated classified hourly placement schedule to go into effect on January 1st, 2022. The new schedule on this slide will begin to put back into the placement schedule a differentiating spread for each grade level. The table on this slide demonstrates the impact of the new classified hourly placement schedule, with the relevant columns being highlighted in blue. So you can see where that yellow was coming down, it goes back up. Now, of course, every year, minimum wage is going to continue to be a concern, but for at this point in time, with the extreme competition we have with other employers and challenges that we have to attract, recruit, and retain, we feel it's important to make this adjustment to align with the minimum wage increase at the same time that it goes into effect on January 1st, 2022. And due to that 65-cent minimum wage increase and the impacts that I've spoken about, both administration and the budget team, and it was for all of the attendees at the meeting unanimous with the budget team, and we do have Mrs. Sandra Sashow, our Director of Food and Nutrition, serving on the budget team. We're recommending a revised classified hourly placement schedule effective January 1st, 2022. In addition, it is recommended that currently employed classified hourly staff, grades 5 through 20, be brought up to the new placement schedule grade level or receive a 65-cent an hour increase, whichever is greater with this recommended action. Now, a preliminary analysis shows that all classified hourly staff would get the 65 cents, but I wanted to put that caveat in there to ensure if there was one or two team members where they would have needed to go up to the new minimum and it was greater than 65 cents, that it would be the either or. The annual cost of this recommended action is $1.8 million to be funded from maintenance and operations, federal funding, and eligible grants. This action, in effect, allows all classified hourly staff, regardless of grade, to realize the effect of the minimum wage increase this year. It is important to note that this action is not taking the place of the annual compensation increase recommendation, and this is not the annual compensation increase recommendation for the year. Employee groups and associated recommendations for those groups will be brought forward in a future meeting for governing board consideration and action. And with that, this concludes the presentation. Administration and I are available at this time to answer your questions. Thank you.
As always, thank you, Ms. Myers. Again, we do have a public comment, tied to this line item, and that public comment comes from Ms. Joyce Steelman.
Mr. Sandoval, board, yes. I've reviewed these papers or these documents several times. And at the top of all of these documents, it says starting rate when you're hired. We keep compensating the new people that we're trying to bring in because we're losing the people that have been here for years. You can't keep giving the lower people raises and not take care of us up here. If you want to open the compression, I understand. Do the minimum, absolute minimum required by law. Bring everybody that's under 1280 to 1280 and leave 11 through 20 alone. Don't do anything. If you're going to give them the district bump in July, you close it again. So if you're gonna, you have to give it to them, then anyone that gets that raise in January, any sort of raise in January, should not qualify for the same raise that I'm going to qualify, that all of these women are going to qualify for, because you're closing the gap for us again. We can't keep picking up sticks and not take care of the glue. And we're the ones that are here every day, been here for years. We keep having to attract people because we can't keep the older employees, the ones that have been there forever. Not, all right, wrong words, not the older one, but the people that have been there the longest. We have to take care of everyone, or just bring it to the legal, just what gets us covered, so that we're not breaking the law. We have to do something for everyone, or just bring it to where the bare minimum is. We can't keep doing this. We're going to lose too many employees. Entry-level employees are the only ones that are actually getting these raises, not the people that are here every day and have been here every day for years. Those are the people we have to take care of. Then you won't have to constantly be looking for new people. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stillman. Board members, questions, comments? Ms. Hill?
This is a tricky one. I'm absolutely dreading having to raise the minimum wage and the compression issues, and I completely understand where you all are coming from. I do. And it does sound to me like, from what I'm hearing too, that we're kind of bumping up the bottom and not doing so much on the top. You know, the people that have been there longer. And I'm not sure if we can modify that in any way. And I do agree with you. I think what's happening is we're getting people at the introductory level that are not staying, they're not committed, they're not loyal, and they leave quickly, and they might go someplace else that makes more money after they get training, or they get a better job, or better paying job someplace else. I guess I'm just questioning if there's something that we can do for, you know, people that have been employed for a longer period of time, bump them up a little bit more. Is more so. I realize we have to get to minimum wage. I get that with the intro employees. I get that, but, and I know you said the 65% difference, but for the next level up, but is there any way that we might be able to reformulate the numbers so that we might be able to give more to the top than at the bottom?
Thank you, Mrs. Hill, President Sandoval, members of the board. If I may, the recommendation this evening recognizes every employee with a 65-cent increase. We've talked about longevity increases being a priority. So I just want to be clear that with the recommendation, every employee with this action will receive a 65-cent increase, classified hourly. That includes people who've been here 15 years, 5 years. People are being rewarded, as well as adjusting the placement schedule so we can continue to be competitive. Now, what we've tried to do, and we were able to do it last year, we had the longevity increase, and we actually made sure that for our classified staff, that instead of 10, 15, 20 years, we had 5 years as the threshold, and I've pulled up that slide, for an additional 1% to 1.5%. So with the recommended action this evening, with the 65-cent increase to an hourly rate, that long-term employee, if we're able to bring forward another longevity recommendation, will actually benefit more than employees who don't qualify for the longevity increase, because their raise would be calculated on a higher hourly rate. So I just want to clarify and explain if that didn't make sense. There are two pieces to this recommendation: a new classified hourly placement schedule, and the full schedule is in this agenda item with the increase that we have here on this slide, as well as maintaining the 7 years of experience that would be available. So both amounts increased proportionately. Let me go back here. And then a second recommendation that every currently employed classified hourly staff member would receive that 65-cent raise. And we actually have in the motion that it would be effective December 31st for our existing staff. And the reason for that is our New Year holiday actually is being observed on December 31st this year because New Year's is a Saturday. So I just want to clarify with this action this evening, we're trying to recognize current employees. We're trying to adjust that classified hourly schedule to ensure that we're competitive, to be able to attract, recruit, and retain. And for those long-term employees, if this recommended action goes through, they would have a higher hourly rate that would be eligible for future compensation increases, which are important because that hourly rate, unlike a one-time stipend, that also counts toward Arizona State retirement years of service and your highest years of earning.
Yeah, I understand that. I just figure, to me, I find it so odd, as I'm looking at all the numbers for just, teachers and administrators and classified, certified, et cetera, that we just do this blanket, that everybody gets a raise across the board, no matter how well they do, or, it's just this blanket. I find it very odd because I don't understand that. I just don't. I mean, I would prefer it. I mean, if we could do, I realize we have to get to the minimum again, the minimum wage, but I might personally be more interested in giving a little bit more to staff that's been here longer and less to staff that has not been here as long, that is not loyal to PUSD per se. They have to, in my thinking, earn it, on some level. I personally don't like the blanket. I've never really cared for the blanket, where everybody gets the same thing, no matter how long you've been here, how well you work, how well you do your job. Everybody gets the same. I'd rather give appropriately, depending on how you are doing at your job or how long you've been here, something of that nature. So I don't know if we can rework that or if it's just a no-go, but I'm not crazy about just making a blanket 65 cents across the board, because wouldn't it be better to give like $1 to, staff that's been here longer and maybe only 30 cents or something to, people that are lower on the totem pole? So it's just a thought, but I don't know if there's anything we could do about that, but I'd rather just not have a blanket.
Thank you, Ms. Hill. Dr. Sorensen?
Just to clarify on slide 30, I will get, if I'm a classified employee, on the bottom, and if the minimum wage increase bumps me 45 cents and the 65 cent, I'm still entitled to the 65 cent, right? I will get the higher rate of those two, correct?
President Sandoval, members of the board, Dr. Sorensen, that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sorensen. Ms. Underhill?
I do have a question on, it's slide 11, the longevity increase to the base. So does that just you just get that one time? Or does it compound? Can you explain that a little bit further?
Thank you. President Sandoval, Mrs. Underhill, members of the board, that's a very good question, and that's why these types of increases are so important. It's not a one-time stipend. It's not a one-time payment. It's an actual increase to an hourly rate or a salary that then becomes the new amount that the next year's raise is calculated on.
Okay. So but it's not like cumulative. So like if you've been when this goes into effect, if you've been there 10 years, you don't get a 2%, you just get 1%, or I guess I'm trying to understand.
Thank you. And just for a point of clarification, this particular increase was previously approved by the governing board. It's not new, just for people who are listening, in case they're thinking this is somehow a new recommendation. This is what went into effect this year, where we had the 3% increase for all eligible staff, and then for our longtime staff, based on years of service, they could have an add-on. It was not cumulative where you were adding 1%, 1.25. It was if you were here for 5 years as a classified person, 5 to 10 years, you were eligible for an additional 1%. Okay. If you were here 15 years, you were eligible for an additional 1.25%, and that continued through 20 years. And for our 25-year team members, they got an additional 1.5% on top of the 3% that then became their new hourly rate that then would be eligible for future raises.
Okay. So if you had been here 20-plus years, you would have been at a 4.25%. No?
If you had been here 20 years, you would have had it, and oh, excuse me, 3% plus 1.2.
Right.
Yes,
Okay,
yes. Thank you.
thank you. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I do have another question. So the 0.65 increase per hour, can you just explain kind of how that was identified? And was there discussion about that varying per per grade or et cetera, or between the grades?
Thank you. That 65 cents, which was really important for grades 11 through 20, that prior to the 10% classified hourly schedule enhancement had been static. And it was in part based on this year's minimum wage increase to try to provide some uniformity, if you will.
Thank you, Ms. Underhill. Representative Pingerelli?
Yeah, I just want to say I think it's a step in the right direction, so thank you.
Thank you, Representative Pingerelli. And I agree with what Ms. Pingerelli just stated, but I do have a few clarifying questions. There is a group of individuals that may not get any increase effective December 31, 2021, correct? They will just get the 3% district-approved annual increase,
So
but not the 65 cents.
Thank you. President Sandoval, if I may clarify your question and then link it to tonight's recommendation.
Sure.
I believe you're referring to, there's a requirement in policy that an employee be with the district a certain period of time to be eligible for an annual compensation increase.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is based on the recommendation, the 65 cents, and the hourly rate of some of our associates that have been here, much longer than, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, some individuals won't get anything of that 65 cents. Does that make sense?
I apologize.
Because their hourly rate is such, it's so high, right, that they may not get the 65 cents, but they'll get the governing board approved increase,
Thank you
annual increase.
for your question, but actually they're being treated separately. So irrespective of a classified hourly team member's rate of pay right now, be it if they were at the top of the prior classified placement schedule or not, they're going to get the 65 cents. This is not in lieu of the compensation increases that are going to be recommended next year. The budget team was very careful to ensure that that was part of their vote and recommendation. And so again, if someone's been here a long time, they're not going to be excluded from this opportunity. And that's where I'm trying to make sure I'm properly answering the question. So using last year as an example to connect it to last year, and I thought you were going to policy where you have to be with the district a certain period of time to get an annual compensation increase. That's not the case with this recommendation. Anyone who's currently employed right now would receive the 65 cent or increase to the new minimum wage grade level, whichever is higher. And that is separate from any future recommendations for annual compensation increases that may be 3% or what the budget team and administration brings forward based on available funding.
So let me ask this. So if a food services manager or our facilities maintenance manager is making, I don't know, making this up, $20 an hour right now, today.
Mrs. Myers, I think maybe the confusion is we have classified exempt employees. So there are certified employees, administrators, classified exempt employees who earn a salary won't see any increase at this time. If you're an hourly employee.
So if you're an hourly employee making $18 an hour, how does this?
You would go to 1865.
Yeah.
That was, yes,
Yeah,
that's my
with
question.
the exception of the transportation work that we did earlier.
Yes,
That was
thank
the one.
We have that asterisk on the slide, and we were careful to note, and it's in this motion, you'll recall our bus drivers, our transportation staff that got the pay increase, they went to their own new HR placement schedule. They're no longer included in this classified hourly schedule. That was part of the action that the board took on October 14th. So you'll note the asterisk on this slide with the motion and recommendation. This increase does not include the transportation staff who received the $3.01 increase that the board approved on October 14th. Thank
Gotcha.
you, Dr. Reynolds.
Okay. No, again, I mean, I said it earlier. I think as a district, as a team, we were going in the right direction without question. I mean, you know, there's no doubt, you know, we have a lot of work to do for sure, but, you know, it can't all happen, you know, in one annual budget. But, you know, as we prioritize our associates, you know, it has always been our teachers, absolutely. I think everybody across the board, the value that they add exceeds, you know, again, the paycheck that they receive, but we know that. And we're working towards being better, you know, in that area. You know, I continue to bring up, and I'll continue to bring up, you know, how we as a district, or how really you as a district, you know, can look at other ways that our classified associates can either, you know, use a portion of, maybe not all 40 hours, but a portion of, at least out of the gate, you know, during our governing board approved holidays, right? So right now, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, our classified don't get paid over like winter break, right? So they won't get a check over winter breaks. Go ahead.
Thank you. Our classified hourly have a certain work calendar for the year, and there are periods of time when the district is technically closed, which aligns with breaks, and so those hourly team members are not working, and so therefore we can't pay them.
Yeah, no, and I get that, and I know that's the response I've received before, but there are some districts that do pay their classified associates over those governing board approved breaks. I don't know what the details are or how. All I ask is that we as a district, you know, look at some of those district models to see if something that may work for PUSD and bring that forth to even our classified associates to take a look at it and see if it's something that, you know, we may want to move into. Yeah, I think there's that, and I think, I believe someone brought up certifications. You know, I think from food services to our facilities and maintenance staff, you know, the individuals that are welders or HVAC. I mean, there are certain certifications that, you know, all these individuals, you know, certainly have. I'll take a quick step back. I think we need to honor those individuals who want to continue to build on their acumen in a certain capacity that they're charged with in our district, right? And as individuals, kind of similar to a national board certified teacher, right? They get stipends for that status, and absolutely, I agree. We continue to do that, and you know, I don't know, may even need to be more. But with our staff, our classified staff, I think we need to take a look at ways that we can provide stipends to those individuals who have those certifications that apply to their particular role within our district. Does that make sense? So I think it's just something that I would like, you know, as a district to take a look at and figure out how we can, you know, again, compensate, you know, those individuals who, you know, continue to grow and continue to build on their professional development and, again, their acumen within the capacity that they're charged with as a district. So thank you for that. Any other questions, comments? No? Okay. With that said, board members, I do need a motion to approve 12.4 budget process, classified hourly staff compensation and minimum wage increase effective January 1st, 2022.
I move to approve 12.4, budget process, classified hourly staff compensation and minimum wage increase effective January 1st, 2022.
I will second.
Ms. Contra, we have a motion by Ms. Underhill and a second by Ms. Hill. Board members, please cast your votes. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, board members. All right, moving on to section 13, discussion items, 13.1, health data update. Mr. Moss, welcome, sir.
President Sandoval, members of the board, we're here for our regular update on health data. Make sure I click that right. You can see there's the cases that have existed. That is very similar to where we were before. It's been 3 weeks since we've had our last board meeting. There is a change there. You see the 271 appears to be a very drop in that. That's Thanksgiving week. When you check on the daily number of cases that are reported, there's about a 1/3 reporting comparison between what happened on Thanksgiving Day and on Friday compared to what happened on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, probably because people are not getting tested, testing places aren't open, the people who are measuring the tests aren't doing there. So I think it's a lag or some sort of process that is just really based upon the number of days we had to report during that time period. Our numbers go back to 347. There doesn't appear to be any big changes that are occurring. If we look at our school data, you can see too that that's very similar to where we were. That's a 2-week period from 11/18 to 12/3. But again, 2 of those days were not in school. Well, in fact, the whole week we're not in school, so we're getting some different reporting information from those times. 1 outbreak, and that was on 11/18. And we had 1 instructional change, and that really was a follow-up on Ironwood High School that we had the major issue on the week before. So we've not really had any major changes that have occurred in what we're seeing across the district in terms of cases or what's happening basically in the community. Things are staying pretty stagnant. And so I'll stand for your questions if you have those.
Thank you, Mr. Moss. Board members, questions, comments? Ms. Hill?
No, I appreciate all the information on this, and we're kind of in the middle of flu season, so I guess it's kind of to be expected. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Hill. Dr. Sorensen?
No, sir.
Ms. Underhill?
No questions, but thank you for your continued watch.
Thank you, Ms. Underhill. Representative Pingarelli? Yeah. Thank you, Representative Pingarelli. Yeah, again, it's, same comment. I know, as we're looking at, from a COVID response team perspective, as we take a look at our district as a whole, I looked at the data this morning, online, the Maricopa County Health data, and, we do have some zip codes in our district that, are, probably pretty high. And I just want to make sure that we continue to look at those numbers and continue to reach out to those sites that sit within those zip codes to see where we can be supportive and be a solution. So, we don't realize, an outbreak or, have to integrate, additional mitigation strategies. Just staying ahead of it, from a threat management perspective is certainly appreciated. Any other questions, comments? If none, Mr. Moss, thank you for your time, sir, as always.
Thank you.
Moving on to section 14, informational reports. 14.1, report on upcoming meetings and events.
Nothing this evening.
All right, thank you, sir. 14.2, legislative, state, and local updates. Ms. Myers.
Thank you, President Sandoval, members of the governing board. Dr. Reynolds, good evening again. I've previously shared just a few minutes ago in the last board agenda, as well as in past legislative updates, the concern related to the K-12 aggregate expenditure limit, with the former Prop 301 expenditures now being considered local revenues. And the reason why I'm focused on this, I've shared, the Joint Legislative Budget Committee has run calculations that there's $1.2 billion of funding reductions facing Arizona school districts based on the expenditure limit, and estimated cuts would average $1,387 per school district student and would mean a reduction of over 17% in state and local funding available for school districts this year. The funding reductions would not apply to charter schools or empowerment scholarship accounts. Community colleges do have a constitutional spending limit, and like school districts, have an expenditure limit in the Arizona Constitution. The limit for community colleges is calculated for each community college compared to, for school districts, an aggregate limit. The individual community college limit is adjusted each year for inflation and student population, as is the case for the aggregate school district limit. And similar to public school districts exceeding that community college limit has severe penalties, including losing funding at a state level, state and local funding. However, last legislative session, the legislature did pass House Bill 2373, which significantly reduced the penalty for exceeding the individual community college spending limit. And I've shared previously that for school districts, if action is not taken by March 1st, related to the K-12 aggregate expenditure limit, school districts will not receive the full funding in the amount of the district's expenditure budget for this year. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. All right, moving on to 14.3, Budget Facilities Planning and Construction Report. This report is on our website. Please feel free to view at your convenience. 14.4, District Budget Report for the month of October 2021. Also a report that is listed on our website. 14.5, Revised District Enrollment Reports for the month of August 2021 on our website. 14.6, Revised District Enrollment Reports for the month of September 2021, again on our website for your viewing. And 14.7, District Enrollment Reports for the month of October 2021, also on our website for your convenience. Moving on to 15, Other Business, Section 15. 15.1, Board Member Opportunity to Readdress Agenda Items. Ms. Hill, any items that you would like to readdress?
I guess I would just be remiss if I did not wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and a safe and happy holiday season, and we'll look forward to seeing everyone back again after January. Happy New Year.
Thank you, Ms. Hill. Dr. Sorensen?
No, sir.
Ms. Underhill? Representative Pingarelli?
Same here. Merry Christmas to everybody, and have a safe holiday.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Pingarelli. 15.2, Requests for Agenda Items for Future Governing Board Meetings. Ms. Hill?
You know, I was wondering if there might be a way to receive some information either from the cabinet or to address social and emotional learning to get more information about the policies and procedures specific to SEL as far as what we allow in the schools specifically, because I'm a little vague on exactly what we allow, because I know we do have SEL in the schools, but I would like to either have a conversation about that or get a report on that to find out exactly what that entails so that I can see what the parameters of SEL actually is in our school system.
I mean, would it be the resources that we go to, or just the overall, I guess, scope of work of our SEL team?
I guess what I'm really looking for is, I mean, the resources would be nice as well, but just exactly what the scope of the SEL that we allow in the schools is, you know, so I think there's parameters here that I definitely think there are some opportunities for SEL in the classrooms and in the schools to be very appropriate. And then at times, I think it is used inappropriately. And I would just like to see where the parameters are, what's allowed for SEL, what are the resources, what's allowed, what is not allowed. And so that at least I can see where that line is drawn. Should a teacher or principal or what have you go beyond a line that they shouldn't go beyond? So I can actually see where the line is. Like, this is what we allow within this policy for SEL. Everything outside of this is not permissible. So I would just like to get clarification on what we allow for SEL. Like I said, I think there's good things with SEL, but I think it's being, you know, twisted sometimes and used for things that it shouldn't be used for. And so I'd like to see where those lines are drawn.
Gotcha. And I believe there's a state standard for SEL, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
But anyway, Dr. Reynolds.
We'll put something together.
Okay,
Absolutely.
perfect. All right. I'll second that. All right. Anything else? All right. Dr. Sorensen?
No, sir.
Ms. Underhill? Representative Pingerelli? All right. Moving on to 16.1, adjournment. I do need a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second?
Ms. Contra, we have a motion by Ms. Hill and a second by Ms. Underhill to adjourn this meeting at 7:41 p.m. Board members, please cast your votes. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, board members, and Merry Christmas to everybody. Have a happy holiday, great new year. Stay safe.